Hello and welcome. I'm Tim, and this is SV Paquita. So this is the app, some of the apps that we use on board, and I know that somebody is going to freak out because they're like, "Oh, put it in landscape mode, not in portrait mode." Well, I'm doing this on my phone, and my phone is set up for portrait mode as everybody else's are, and the apps are built for portrait mode. And so if you're watching this on your TV or on your computer or whatever, I'm really sorry. I've tried to turn it the other way to accommodate you guys, but the screen recording app doesn't let me do that. You'd have to stand on your head to be able to see it. So that's what it is. So in this video here, I want to talk about some things. Some of the things I want to talk about are, I want to tell you about some of the apps that we use, and we don't. Oh, it's going dark on me already. Yeah, so the apps that we use, we use apps for a bunch of things, but you got to remember that when you use one app as opposed to another, I kind of think of my friends that love Chevys, and I think of my friends that love Fords, and they're both probably great, but if you can't tell that to either one of the other two, you know that they're so look, you find the apps that work for you. These are the ones that we're using relatively consistently, and so not only am I going to show you the apps that we use and how we use them, but at the end we'll go and plan a route together, and we use all of these together. So let's start off with the simple one that you guys have used 1,000 times, and that is going to be Google Maps. So you say, why would you use Google Maps? Well, here we are now. It's catching where we are. We're anchored up over here in this beautiful bay, and so for an example, if we go over and just touch over here, we could put on the satellite view, which you've all probably done a million times before. Before we even leave the boat, we'll go in here and look at the shore to see where there's a good break in the shore where we might be able to get in by these rocks, try to do as little damage to the propeller as we can to the dinghy, and then maybe even see where we might even take the dinghy up and tie the dinghy up and that sort of stuff. And so this is good, and it's also good too because a lot of times some of the map, some of like Navionics, in some places in Italy, I thought it was parts of the Med, but the Irish lads say no, it's a thing about Italy, and the last time they had surveys done, they did it with lead weights and stuff like that. So I don't know. Anyway, they'll have like, well, you'll see when we bring up Navionics, it won't list, you know, the sonar charts where it just lists a blue area, and it says that you can be from like 6 to 3 feet, you know, or something like that. But when you do this, you can zoom right in and see where the rocks are. Like if we were anchored, well, in our case, we're right here. So you can see we have nothing to worry about where we're anchored. But if there was a rock somewhere, that we might be anchored and everything's fine, but if the wind switches, it would put us on the rock. So that's one of the things that we use. This is something that some of the guys that have crossed the across the Pacific use, where the chartography is very bad out there as far as the atolls go, and they look for bommies, and so they use a satellite for that. So that's one of the apps we use. On Paquita, we have 3 different charting software, or 3 different chart plotters, ways to chart where we are. I have a Garmin suite. Unfortunately, Garmin has bought Navionics, which you would say, why is that unfortunate? It's unfortunate for me. It's great for Garmin and great for anybody that's buying new stuff. I'm very happy with Garmin. Once again, it's the Chevy and Ford thing. I think Garmin is much better than Raymarine, but I'm sure the people with Raymarine think that their stuff is better. So, and to be clear, all of it is great. They all, and all of these plotters do almost all the same thing. But the Garmin, the problem that I have with the Garmin thing is that when the previous owner put the system in, Garmin had not bought Navionics. I have something called an 8612 multifunction display. It has the Garmin blue charts in there, and Garmin stopped updating those because they spent all their money to buy Navionics. The problem is the Navionics doesn't mesh with the software they're using in my 8612, so I can't put Navionics on my 8612. I can if I just use it as a dumb display, not as a chart plotter, but I want to integrate all the other systems from my N2K network. So anyway, just know that I have a chart plotter that just gives us a world map, and it doesn't do anything great. So when we go places, like for example, if we go over to, let's go to Aquamaps. I use Aquamaps on a tablet and on my phone, so if the tablet dies, I have another one ready to go. And most of these programs will give you 1 or 2 licenses, you know, like you get a license and you can put it on 2 different things, so that works well. But anyway, this is I found in the Bahamas that Aquamaps were much more accurate. For me, once again, this is probably a Chevy and Ford thing. Somebody else is going to fight with me in the comments about this. But in the Bahamas, Aquamaps was so much more accurate than Navionics was, or the Garmin for that matter. So here's something here. But you know, you can zoom in, you can see all different stuff here. But you can also click on any of these things right here, and it will give you like see where it says like anchorage. Click on here, and it will tell us a little bit about the anchorage. And there's even some reviews on there. You can check out where you want to go. If there's a problem, like you see this little red mark over here, it's a hazard. There are a number of missing red markers, blah blah blah. And so you can. It has different things. And you know what? That data, I don't think they're grabbing that. I think they're getting that from Active Captain, which is also displayed on Navionics. But as far as the depth contours go, those were much more accurate here in the Bahamas. Now, and Aquamaps, it's funny because I had kind of thought that Aquamaps was more of a toy. I started using it when I went down the ICW, the Intercoastal Waterway, because you can integrate the, oh, you know what, I should have put that up here, but you can integrate the Army Corps of Engineers sonar data, and they put it over, you know, they're doing it constantly. So every day they're out there checking everything, and they upload it. So you can, regardless of what the chart says, you can see actual depths that had been just sounded recently. And that was really handy. So that's where I started using Aquamaps, and then I started liking it more and more. And I use their anchor alarm. They have a great anchor alarm in here, so that not only, you know, you set your boundaries, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. But one thing that they do that's really kind of cool is that you can have them send you a text message or an email if you fall out of the anchor. So in other words, if you anchor up and you go into town, you say, well, what are you going to do? You know what? If I'm out to dinner, I would rather go running down to the beach and try to take care of a problem as quickly as possible, or try to call for help, than to finish my dinner and go and find the boat totaled. So yeah, having something like that. Hopefully none of that will happen, but that's a nice part. Okay, so that's one application. You can see there's a little route in here, and they give you stuff. One thing that I'm not showing you on this and the other version is just because I have it set up on my, I have something called a PredictWind data hub, and that grabs the N2K, the NEMA 2000 network information, and it displays you know, everything that's on the network, which includes AIS targets and wind and depth and all that sort of stuff, and it displays all that on these screens as well. So that's kind of fun too, and that's not a big investment. If that's something if you have a black box AIS and you have a wind instrument and that sort of thing, if those are things that you want to be displayed on your chart plotter and you only are using a tablet, that's totally doable. And I think it's like $300 for the data hub, and it gives you the tracking for free and all that sort of stuff. Incidentally, if you guys want a link to the tracker, let me know, and I will, you know, write it in the comments, and I'll send you a link to our tracker. Okay, so then another one would be Navionics. So I'm assuming that most of you guys know about Navionics. Navionics is very popular, as it should be. And the good thing about these, which is so much better than even if my Garmin plotter was working well, it's kind of cumbersome to try to buy and download charts for a new area. Where something like Navionics, and to give credit where credit is due, for Aquamaps is this very similar. You can go just about anywhere, click on your phone, as long as you have, and in our case we have Starlink, so it's not a problem. you click, as long as you have an internet connection, you click where it is, and for $25 or $30 and you know, I mean, you might pay $100, but you're going to get a massive area if you did that for a year subscription or something like that. And what's also good too is because they're electronic charts, they're always being updated, so you don't have to correct your charts. And people say, oh, I don't know why I've had paper charts forever and I've never corrected them. Well, you know what? You wouldn't be a professional mariner doing that, because for 30 years I've been correcting charts paper. Well, I shouldn't say. For as long as I was a mate, I was correcting charts by hand, and then when the electronic charts came, we didn't have to do that anymore. But anyway, so here's the same idea. This little red triangle in the middle is us. We are anchored. These little things with anchors are where people who have, and you can toggle this on and off if you want, but I've allowed it to show me other people's data. So if people want to enter a comment, if you click over here, like, there we go. Ooh, wait a minute. If we click on this guy, it'll say what this guy happened to write about this particular area. This one is not in the language I know. But if you click over here on the green one, you get the same thing that you would get the other way through Active Captain. It tells you a little bit about it. There's even a there's a link to the mooring. Gives you gives you ratings. You know, you can leave comments, you can do all that sort of stuff. They'll also tell you there's moorings over here, like this ball over here, and then they'll tell you about these rocks. So that's kind of nice. You can click over here and see, well, there's aged navigation. You can get information about that. You can also get information about the different places that you want to go, and like any other plotter, it'll do routes and waypoints and all that good sort of stuff. So that's us. You can see as we zoom in here how it gets very deep here very quickly. But anyway, so that's Navionics, and we use that quite often, and that's been very good for us in the Med. I don't mean it. I mean, like, for example, remember I was telling you that see this right here, where my boat is right here. There's the contour. Oops, sorry. The contour lines. These are all contour lines. They'll show you how it's shoaling up. So it goes from 164 feet to 105 to 73. And then this line right over here is like 40 feet. And then you can see in the blue here is like 13. And it doesn't really tell you much about what's going on in here. And that's something where you would want to use like Google Maps with you know, an aerial view of that to look for, make sure that there isn't something you're missing, you know, like a rock. So that's that, and you know, there's a little measuring tool so you can see how far you want to go, and there's all kinds of fun stuff in there. But I'm sure of all these apps, I'm sure you're most familiar with that. Okay, so that's kind of how the navigational thing works. Now, let's say that we want to go, and we say, well, this is our case. We're going to want to go from here. This is all Sicily right here. This is all Sicily. We're going to want to go over here to mainland. This is the tip of the boot of Italy. And we need to eventually get over here to one of these islands. It's not important right now, but we need to get over to Greece on the 4th, because Owen is meeting his girlfriend there, so we have to start making easterly. And we do a 2 or 3 day trip all the way over there and battle what weather we have. But since it's not my girlfriend, I figure we'll just take our time and start heading this way. So I figured that right here, if I do this, I bring up the old mileage thing. Look at that. That's about 40 miles there to the tip of the boot there. So that's a good day sail for us, or in this case, day motor, just because, you know, they say the Mediterranean, the Med is motor every day, or you get beat by wind. So that means that we want to be in this area over here. But I don't know exactly where I want to go there. So that brings up the next thing that we want to do, and that's that we go to Navily. Navily is let's see, here's Navily right here. So this is Navily right where we're at right here, where we are the blue dot in the middle. Hey, you know what? I just realized. Oh, no, we're cool. We're good. Yeah, so Navily's, so we're the blue dot in the middle right here. And once again, you can click on the anchors and it will tell you all the same thing that everybody else tells you. But see this right here? This is a mooring field right here, and it's 80 euros for that. And then we can come over here, and there's docks over here, and these other ones like this right over here that's somebody who's part of it. So if I wanted to contact them, I could you can contact other users and say, hey, what's it like? Is it rolly over there? Or hey, do you know where you take out the garbage? That sort of thing. So that's kind of fun. You can keep an eye on your friends, and you can toggle that on and off if you don't like any of that stuff too. But in our case, we don't care where we are, we care where we're going. So coming across here, somewhere around here, I got to look for places. Okay, now all of a sudden the anchorages pop up. Now if we weren't going to an anchorage, if we were going to a marina, you can click in and you can send the marina, you store your information like your boat's registration, your insurance information, your passport information, and this is all stuff that you have to give to a marina anyway when you go there. So you can click on a marina, request reservation, you get and it figures out how much it's going to cost because you already have the particulars of your boat entered, and then the marina sends it back to you, and then they can usually use all the electronic information that you've already put up there, so everything's great. You just go up there, and in some cases, like the last place that we went, the marina manager wasn't there, and the dock attendant said, can you come back and see our marina manager? Never got to see the marina manager, but since I had everything, I have a credit card on there and all that, they're like, yeah, no problem, is it all right for us to charge your card? I said, yeah, absolutely. So that's how that kind of worked. But another thing that you can do is they tell you right now with the free version, they tell you right now, well, when you click on like that anchorage, it'll tell you the name, and you can see there's some pictures, and these pictures are put up by the users. This is not like this is like I can put a picture up here, but it will tell you in this case it's an authorized anchorage place. There is no mooring or stern to or lines ashore or anything like that, but it'll give you this rating, this score, this Navily score. This is a 62, and this is moving. Now if you had the free version, it just tells you exactly how it is now. I paid $30 for a year version for it, so it's very affordable, and you can look forward. If you look down a little lower down here, you can see this compass rose. Where the green is where you get the protection. Where the light blue is where the swell comes from, and the dark blue is where the wind comes from. So this 62 is saying, hey, you know what? You got less than a foot, so it's not a big swell, but you got some swell and a little teeny bit of wind blowing on you. So even though you're not protected, you don't have the worst thing there. But with the paid version, I could say, I don't care about today. If I left tomorrow, it would probably take me, what do we say, 45 miles, so 8 hours, 8 from 7 is, what's that going to be, 15, so 1,500, so that's going to be tomorrow at 3 p.m. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that, hit the wrong thing. Okay, so 3 p.m. tomorrow, right there. Well, it's about a 62. You can see the swell has gone up to a foot, and the wind has increased a little bit, so it's still not great. But what we can also do is go back here and look at a place like this. Do we get any better protection in this one? Then we come over here, and we look tomorrow at 3 p.m. Oh, look at this. It's 68, but it's going to go way down. Something's going to happen there. So I guess later on it's going to get really nasty there. So that one's out for me. How about this one here? Come over here. Now right now it's not very good right now because you can see that the wind and the swell are coming in where it's not protected. But what happens at 3 p.m. tomorrow? And of course you have to take into consideration these are in fact estimates. This is the weather does what it wants, but this I have found this to be much more accurate than my other weather programs, so I'm pretty impressed with that. So anyway, this is going to be 51%, and that night it looks like we're going to have a terrible night at 6 p.m. It's going to be we're gonna have 2 foot of swell rolling us all around there. And you know what? See, it's figured it out. If it was 2 foot of swell and the wind was blowing and we were pointed into it, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But they know that with a 1.2 knots of wind and a 2 foot swell, we're just going to wallow back and forth in the anchorage. It's going to be really miserable. So I don't want to do that. So that kind of tells. But if I did want to do that, I could look over here and it will tell me whether there's snacks, whether there's a bar available, a beach, water, if there's a dock available to take the dinghy to, bars, restaurants, health facilities, chandleries, shops, tourism, all that, shows all this stuff. And if you don't like that, if you want to go to a marina, here's a marina. And this one doesn't say how much it's going to be. Some of them say and some don't. But then you go down and you read some reviews and you see what the other people have said, and you see and it will tell you what kind of boat they have. So obviously a catamaran is probably going to be more stable at anchor than a monohull is. In this case, this is a 45-foot monohull, and this was just a month ago, so you can read about that. And so that's kind of cool. So that's how you use that. So now we know where we're going to go, or where, but we know that it's going to be really bumpy if we go there. So we can also look for other places, but let's just stay with that. All right. So now the next thing is, let's find out how we're going to get there. And we're going to do that with weather apps. Now there's 2 weather apps that we use quite often. There's a third one that I don't know, that I have to get from Laura 2. Laura 2 is their boat, and he's half Italian, and he has an Italian weather app that is supposed to be really good for Italy. And I haven't found it yet. But here's Windy. Now the thing I love about Windy is I think that its user interface is probably the best out there. It really has a nice graphical feel to it. You can see Sicily right here. Here's the boot. We're over here. We want to sail over to here. So if you look down at the bottom of the page, underneath where it says Sunday, it'll say KT. That's for knots, and it starts with 0, and then the color gradient goes all the way up to 60 knots. Because we don't want to be around anything like that. But what we can do is say, okay, so today's Friday, it's 11 o'clock. So if we zoom in here, we know that we are going from, I'm going to put these crosshairs, we're going to be going from about here, and we're going to go across over to here. So if we went tomorrow, what would that look like? Well, if we start doing this, according to this, doesn't look too bad. In fact, the wind looks like if there's it looks like it's going to be motoring the whole time, because it's going to be nice flat calm. Oh wait a minute, here's tomorrow. That's what if we left today. Oh, see this? Now it's got some wind here. Anyway, we're not seeing anything really bad. You can click over here, and this thing has like, probably over, it said 46 more, so probably over 50 different things you can get. Different things you can look at. So wind is something that we look at. We also look at waves. When we were crossing the Gulf Stream, it was really handy to look at currents, and because the Gulf Stream, some people think that it's static, that it just stays in one spot, and that could not be further from the truth. So when you're coming through here, you see this right here? You can see where you are and see where the Gulf Stream is, and you can even see where, in this case, the Gulf Stream is doing over 3 knots right there. Some places it goes 5 knots, but you can see this thing moves all around everywhere, and you can see like there these eddies, and you can catch an eddy, and it doesn't seem like this is a big area. So if you caught this eddy here, you might be able to speed up for a day and get a knot boost going in the opposite direction. So that's kind of really helpful. I gotta tell you, as much as I love Windy, I don't find it to be very accurate. At least it hasn't been for me. Many people love it. I know, I mean, if I were looking out to see if it was raining, maybe I would like it too. I just know that when Windy tells me it's going to be, this wind conditions are what I want, and I go out there and I get a spanking because it turned out to be 180 degrees wrong. Yeah, I don't like it as much. Love Windy. I like I say, its graphical interface is the best. Love it, but don't really like how that works. Okay, so there's another one, and that's called PredictWind. And you've probably heard me talk about PredictWind a million times over. PredictWind is PredictWind is a great big thing. It has a whole bunch of different things you can do. So the first thing I want you to tell you about is if you look on this thing where it says forecast options, you can see you can look at wind, gust, cape. Cape is the energy in the atmosphere, wave, current, rain, accumulated rain cloud, isobars, sea temperature. Sea temperature is another way of saying where the currents are, so you can see that as well. But if you look underneath it where it says forecast models, you'll see there are 6 different models in there that you can choose from. And when you actually make routes, you can have each model show you their predicted route, and then you can find out which one was better. And you'll see, this will all make sense to you pretty soon. So the 2 I use over here is the PredictWind European model over here, and then the European model itself. They're not the same. The PredictWind is it's a aggregator, so it uses other ones that they put them together. But let's start with the European model. So we come over here, and we are right where the white dot is, and you see this white dot? That's us. And then we're going to be going over here. So if we start playing this right now, remember this is the European model. This isn't looking too different than what we were seeing on windy. Doesn't look bad. Now there's a little gust of 15 knots, but it's a broad reach, so that looks kind of nice. I like that. That will give us a little bit of sailing. Doesn't look like there's going to be too much coming at us till we get right to the end there. And so that's that. And if you look down at the bottom, you'll see a time stamp there. So that's saying Sunday. So that's like 2 days from now. Okay, so that's that. But if we come over here and change the model, now watch this. We do the exact same thing here, but this is the aggregated PredictWind model. Now you can see it's starting to show a lot more. And I see that the wind's coming against us for a second. Now the wind's coming against us again. And if you notice, that's kind of my thing. Wherever we go, the wind comes right at us. So that right there, not good. Completely different from what Windy said, and completely different from what the European model said. And I'm only saying statistically wise, that seems to be the way that things have been working. So I'm very concerned about this. So that once again, this is Sunday. It starts going that way. Okay, so now we have an idea what it is. Oh, and by the way, that's that. Then we can also go over and look at things like sail routing. So, just downloading here. Here we go. So that's our route, okay? And you can put in as many dots as you want or whatever, and that's totally fine. But we come over here, start grabbing the data to do this. Now you've put in information, how your boat sails this way. It has the polars in there, so it should know how your boat reacts. Another way, and whether you're a power boat or sailboat, and how fast you go. And you put in how, like I say that after 4 knots, I want to start motoring, and that when I motor, I'm probably going to motor at about 5 knots because I'm saving fuel, that sort of thing. Okay, so each one of these lines is a different. Now I really should. Let's do this over again. I don't want to get that. See that dot in the middle? That waypoint, we don't need that at all. You can add as many as you want, but I really want it to develop your own routes. So you'll see that now this is a 7-hour trip, so this isn't going to be that big a deal. But when you're crossing the Atlantic, different models are going to give you very different areas that they suggest that you should go. And even here, you can see there's a big difference in how they want you to sail it. So you can put in when you're leaving. This is assuming that we're leaving right now. So if we do this, we go, and each model goes this way, and you can see which model will go, and it doesn't look so bad doing that. Okay, now there's something else. We can come over here into tables, and once again, you can see all the different models will show you the different things as far as wind speed and wind direction, wind angle, rain, cape, temperature, pressure. We even have things like how much, where the waves are going to be, like the biggest wave we would see here would be 1/4 of a meter, so less than a foot. So it doesn't look too bumpy according to this. And then the current speed, direction, the current, how much we roll. It'll even tell you how much you're going to roll. Then vertical acceleration, slamming, And so it tells you a whole bunch of stuff, but you can also go over here, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. But just to give you a big, quick one here, here's a summary. Basically, saying it's going to be about time taken 7 hours, 9 minutes. Another one says 7 hours, 43 minutes. Say about 38 miles, 40 miles. Average speed 5.3, 5.2. Passage time, motoring time 3 hours. The other one says 7 hours. So if you go with one thing, they think that you'll motor less. And the problem is you're going to have to figure out which one. All of these are all giving their best thing, but they can't all be right. In fact, none of them necessarily will be right. So you have to figure out the one that you're going to believe. But the minimum wind speed would be 4.5 or 3.7 knots. Maximum gust 7. The other says 13. Cape we don't usually worry about until it gets over 1500 or even 2000. That's with like lightning and stuff like that. And then now look at this. The PredictWind global says we'll only be going upwind 37% of the time, but the PredictWind European model says 100% of the time we're going upwind. Remember, I kind of think that's probably how it's going to go. Time less than 8 knots, meaning the wind, 100% or 60%. So it tells you a whole bunch of stuff here, which is just kind of what I want to tell you about. So then now we come to another section that's kind of cool, and there's other stuff, like you guys are familiar with my tracking software, so this is where it comes from. And so you can see our whole route here across in the Bahamas and across to the Atlantic and all that sort of stuff. But you also have things like AIS data, and you have to pay for this. Unfortunately, they're very expensive, but you know, if you want to be on a boat, you probably want to be safe, and if you want to be safe, you got to pay money. So this white dot is us, and all these other dots, the blue little sailing logo there, those are other people with PredictWind. So you can click on them, and it'll tell you all about them. But all these other boats are just like regular AIS data, like you'd get from a AIS aggregator, you know, like marine traffic. But the thing that's nice about this is that we can look 300 miles over the horizon. So when we're crossing the Atlantic, it was nice if we were going with a buddy boat. He might get 100, 200 miles away, but we can still check in on him, even though it'll never show up on our the air, you know, over the air AIS. But that's not what I really wanted to show you. What I really wanted to show you is this departure planning. So you can do it for power boats or sailboats. We're going to do departure planning for sailboats, and so you can set up different parameters. I have this set up for 24 hours. So basically it's going to give me 4 different scenarios, assuming that we go, if we click over here, let's assume today is the 26th. So let's assume that we leave tomorrow, Sunday morning, and we're going to leave at 7 in the morning. Now, each one of these things I have set for 24 hours, because if I don't leave tomorrow at 7 in the morning, I'll look at the next window for doing the next one at 7 in the morning, yada, yada, yada. All right, so now we download this. And this really takes out, you know, it's easy to plan your route when you're in your armchair. When you're actually ready to go, it's really hard to make a decision because there's so many pros and cons to everything. You're like, oh my god, what do I do? If I go now, we'll get there, but if I don't go now, you know, if we wait a little while, it'll get better, but I don't know what's going to happen. That as the accuracy of the forecast gets worse the longer it goes. So here we go.